Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the inaugural season of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain. My name is Connery Maddock, and I'm joined by the ever wonderful Paul Smith, not only for this race, but hopefully for the rest of the season as well, as we head to round number 1 of this championship at the home of British Motorsports. We're heading to Silverstone for our first 2 races day, Paul. This is going to be epic. I'm always excited about the start of a new season. You know, we get used to the names, we get used to all the storylines that start to develop from this very first round, and I can't wait until we get to the end and end up crowning our champions.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 classes of cars are going to be competing, both the Cup car, the 992 Cup, and also the 718 Cayman here in the GT4 category. So we're going to have a real mixed class of competitors. I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I absolutely am. Multi-class racing all has its own intricacies as well when it comes to racing, with how drivers deal with lap traffic. So it's going to be a different element that they're having to contend with. Here's an overview of what's going to be happening over the course of these race evenings, shall we say. The guys are out there right now actually doing their lone qualifying. They'll have 2 flying laps. They'll have 10 minutes to complete those 2 flying laps. Then we head in towards race number 1, 30 minutes, simple as straight up race. And then we go into race 2, which the grid for race 2 will be basically the exact same as the results from race 1. We do have a fixed setup for this one, though, which is going to be an interesting little element. And as unusual for a multi-class session, we have a standing start as well. So that's going to be an interesting one, which we'll get to. Paul, you've already mentioned that you have the GT3 Cup, the 992 variant, and of course the Cayman GT4 Club Sport here, as well as our Pro and our AM category. For the Pro category, of course, these are our more experienced drivers over 3,500 iRating. Everyone below that is classified as an AM driver, and they're racing in that category. In terms of the prizes, the top 3 drivers from each class will win a half-day driving experience at the Porsche Experience Center. The Pro drivers will get to drive the same car that they drive in session, albeit a different variant, in the 911, and the AM drivers will get to drive the Cayman for that day as well. And as both of us have been to a Porsche Experience Center, the Porsche Experience Center before, and actually driven some of these cars. At least I have. Paul, I don't think you got the opportunity to, but that is a day full of action and a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I prefer to have somebody chauffeur me around, but no, it was a tremendous experience, that, and one day that I will never forget. That is for sure. It is a tremendous facility. Everybody there at the facility is welcoming, always willing to answer your questions, and it's just a fantastic setup there at Silverstone.
Yeah, I'll never forget, because it's the first experience that I've had driving a high-performance car, so it was completely mind-blowing, and getting a passenger ride in the GT3R a little bit later in the day was incredible. But back to this, though, we've got our schedule. So first event, our first 2 races at Silverstone, and then we head to Donington Park, then we go to Snetterton for our 3rd race evening, and then we have the finale of the series at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit on the 12th of November. So that one's good to look forward to. Here's where we're racing today. I'm betting the vast majority of you be very, very familiar with this circuit. It holds so much history with regards to British motorsports, and it is really perhaps one of the best tracks to kick a season off.
Yeah, plenty of space for the drivers to be able to get themselves around and be able to get some hard-fought racing going on in this one. So yeah, these drivers will be having a lot of fun there, that is for sure. But it's a challenging track, though. It's not the easiest track to start a season off, and some of those key points, the run out of Beckett's and Chapel down the Hanger Straight, is going to be a key one to carry that speed down into Stir. But the drivers, well, they're just getting their qualifying underway, and we'll be seeing the first few lap times coming in very shortly indeed.
Yep, we will. So the session has been ticking away for a good couple of minutes now. Drivers have completed their out laps and are starting to set their first fast laps. So we're seeing Sebastian Hawkins go to the top of the early order. in that number 15 Porsche, but of course everyone's going to be coming in behind here for the moment. Of course, we have the two classes of cars at play here in this one, and that's going to be an interesting element that we're going to have to contend with throughout the entirety of this season. But you see Adam Greaveson there, currently top of the club sport class, the GT4 class as we're calling it, but Sophia Ridpath immediately responding and getting herself up into that pole position spot in our AM category today. Sophia Ridpath, and in fact, actually a lot of these drivers we are very familiar with from other series, Paul.
Yeah, certainly, and even one driver in those GT4s we're familiar to him from being in the commentary box with us, Dan Blake. Let's not forget he was one of our former colleagues here at RaceSpotTV. Sam Jordan, straight to the top of the qualifying standings here. The track's actually not that warm, so the second lap should get them a little bit more grip from those tyres, because it can take a lap or two to get those tyres into the operating window here. That is for sure. But as you mentioned, two classes of cars in these two 30-minute races, and it's going to be really intriguing to see how this one pans out, because I'm looking at Sophia Ridpath's lap time. It's about just short of 6 seconds slower than your leading Cup car.
Yeah, that is the lap time delta that we're having to contend with at the moment. So over the course of 30 minutes, of course, the snake will catch its tail, as it does tend to do in multi-class racing at some point. So we'll have the big gaggle of GT3s, of 911 Cup cars, catching the back of the GT4 field, and that's going to be one of the more intriguing parts of the race as drivers try to negotiate that situation. We've got a look at Oliver Ettridge here in the number 57, still yet to set a lap time, but still time left in the session to be able to do that. It's coming towards the end of the lap now through that Vale chicane, swinging in towards the final corner at Club. Let's see what the lap time is then for the number 57. Of course, we got the overall times on the tower, so getting up towards the 10th place. We got overall times on the tower, but of course on that lower third graphic there, we have their actual class position. So currently, it's Oliver Ettridge does get himself up into 4th place on the starting grid.
Yeah, great stuff. Although Adam Holloway just comes and pops in a lap time in 2nd place in GT4. And you see the tower, well, it's giving us 1 AM time there on our time, which timing tower, which I'm sure will just need to be updated slightly. But Paul Clist then through that opening section of the track there. Albion Farm, tricky to be able to run through there flat out. You're going to have to be bleeding off the throttle a little bit in some of these cars. And then Village is the first of those overtaking opportunities. The loop that Paul's just gone through now, the second of those opportunities out there, and he's going to pull over to the side of the road. He is done for qualifying, and I think everybody has put their qualifying laps in here, Connery.
Yeah, it does seem to be the case that our drivers have completed their 2 allotted flying laps, and then of course the rest of the time in the session, and we'll just have to wind down. Here's Graham Brown, 6th place in the qualifying order in that AM category for the moment, coming across the old pit straight and going to be angling himself down in towards Copse Corner now. Such an exciting corner, this one. It's a crazy experience in any car, you know, whether it's a high downforce, high performance car, or even if something a little bit lower downforce like these GT4s. It's always exciting going through there. And speaking of exciting, Maggots and Beckett's, this entire complex as well, is probably one of the best in the world.
You know, I'm old enough to remember them putting in this Maggots Beckett's complex as it currently is. So, yeah, back in 1991, that was brought in, was that particular version of the layout. So, yeah, it's a real test of driver and car, is that section. And it really does push these. That's where you can lose a little bit of time out there as drivers now heading on to pit road to finish off their day. But with 30 seconds to go in qualifying here, we are pretty much set with those times right now.
Yeah, of course, the lap times have been set, basically. So we're just waiting for the rest of this time to wind down here for the moment. We'll need to switch around the labels there on the two classes, because Severe Redpath is an AM driver, so is the rest of them in that list. But either way, drivers will not be able to complete their laps here, by the way, because it is a lone qualifying. So therefore, there's no leeway after the checkered flag to be able to complete your laps. So once that timer hits 0, that is basically it. So starting grid then, here's your pro category. Will Eatwell, pole position. Then we got Sebastian Hawkins there. Interesting to see a team manager. That's a team manager, Guild Esports, actually taking part in this one. So great to have him on the starting grid for this. We've got Samuel Jordan there in P3 with Ryan Elliott in P4. Kieran Sharp will start in 5th with Jack Southfield in 6th. Further down the order, you're going to have Daniel Sedgley starting in P7 in that particular category. Then Dave Martin and Andrew Pike. Then you got Nick Scott and Thor Teller rounding out the pro starting order. And then you get yourself into the AMs, into the GT4s. You have Sophia Ridpa taking pole position in this first event. We've got Oliver Ettridge and Adam Holloway further down the field. We've got Adam Grieveson, George Cullinan, Graham Brown, and Gianluca Elia in 18th place. 19th place goes Stephen Hobbs. Then you got Adam Locke there in 20th. Toby Andrews 21st, Dan Blake 22nd. Then 23rd, you got Wayne Basson. And then further down the order, you have the drivers that perhaps didn't get themselves great qualifying performances. David Nichols, Paul Clist, and Christopher Humphreys round out our 26-car starting grid in total. But as is a bit unusual for a multi-class session, we're going to have a standing start here, Paul. Just very, very quickly, what are your expectations for this one? In fact, we will go ahead straight away because everyone's gotten themselves to the starting grid. So we get ourselves all set with those engine notes rising here in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge. Great Britain, we are underway for the very first time. It was a very, very slow start, though, from Jack Southfield, I believe it was, further down the order. In fact, no, it was someone further back. Meanwhile, so you got side-by-side for P2 there, Sebastian Hawkins and Samuel Jordan battling very, very briefly, but they get themselves all sorted out for this first sector. There's a big dive down the inside for Jack Southfield on Samuel Jordan. He's going to wash up towards the exit of the circuit. Jordan's going to respond back down the inside. A little bit of a bump with the doors coming off the corner as they'll continue this wheel-to-wheel action down the Wellington Straight for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely neck and neck. This is great stuff. Of course, you got cold tyres and brakes. You've not had chance to get any pace lap done to put some heat into those tyres. So you've got to be careful with it. And of course, these Porsche 992 Cup cars, they do not have ABS or traction control. So that's why they're the pro cars. They're all about those drivers with a bit more experience behind them to do that, but it's still absolutely neck and neck for third place. Oh, swapping paint between the two of them.
Yeah, and Southfield's going to have to go out into the runoff here. Now the cars behind will be able to potentially capitalize on that down in towards Maggots and Beckett's here for the first time. Just to add a little bit of a clarification, it was Ryan Elliott, the number 66 car, that was sluggish off the start there in that pro category. So a little bit of correction there on my side, but it's so difficult to get these GT3 Cup cars started and off the line because, like you said, it's not quite necessarily always the done thing in these cars, but we see our battles coming up on screen. Remember, of course, we do have that AM category as well, which has had a change because Oliver Ettridge has been able to get past Sevilla Ridpath in the AM category there, so that's a change to the race lead there. Meanwhile, of course, in Pro, we've actually got quite a significant gap developing already between P1 and 2 and the rest of the field.
Yeah, the front two, Eatwell and Hawkins, have been able to gap out at the front because of the fighting that's been going on between Jordan and Southfield. But yeah, you're right, Etheridge getting the position over Sophia Ridpath.
Oh, big incident. Oh, there was a big impact at the very back of the field there. Didn't quite see who exactly that was, but it was a major impact with the pit wall there in the background. So we may be able to get ourselves another look at it in just a couple of moments. But I do want to revisit what I was saying about Elliott and his starts there. Of course, these are the GT3 Cup cars, and like you were saying, Paul, these cars do not have any assists, so you're going to have to be very, very careful coming off the start because you do not have the traction control to help you. You're having to try and modulate that throttle, and of course the clutch is quite unique in this car, at least among cars on iRacing, when it comes to a race start as well. So it does mean that the pro category does tend to get a more mixed results in terms of the start than others.
Yeah, you can overheat the clutch with this Cup car, the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car, the 992 variant of it, with its boxer engine, a 4-litre boxer engine, and yeah, certainly does make a tremendous noise, does that car, as does the 718 Cayman. To be fair, the 718, I would actually say, is a little bit more tricky to get off the line than the Cup car, as we see. There you go, there's that incident for David Nichols. Oh, and he was lucky not to collect enough a car in that one, but yeah, David Nichols finding the pit wall.
Yeah, it is, and yeah, you can see the speed differential between the GT3 Cups and the Caymans here. As we're seeing, this is the battle for the race lead actually in the AM category. This is Sophia Ridpath getting back past Oliver Ettrich at Stowe Corner. That's an important one for Sophia, but so she's going to have to defend now in towards the Vale chicane because Ettrich has found his way to her outside, but has to fall back in line. Can't maintain that overlap for the second apex of the Vale, and a little bit of a squirrely moment there for Ettrich coming off the corner. Might put him back into the clutches of Holloway in the 81 as well.
Yeah, this is the good stuff in the GT4s. They're close together, tightly packed, and squabbling over those positions. Etheridge now just, as you say, just dropping that little bit, but we've still got plenty of time. We've only had 5 minutes of this race, Connery, so there's plenty of time for these drivers to do this. And as you mentioned at the top of the show, it's all the same setup for each of the drivers. It's all down to the person that sits between the wheel and pedals to be able to get the most out of it.
Yeah, it really, really does. It's definitely a great equalizer. So, like you said, you are much more relying on the skill of the driver rather than how you've been able to configure the car. Everyone has the exact same setup. So. I'm definitely a fan of it in some instances, not necessarily all the time. I think there's certainly something to be said in terms of skill in being able to set up a car for not just a certain track, but also a certain conditions that you'll be racing on the day as well. But if we do want to find a difference between, skill of the drivers, this is probably the better way of doing it in terms of the actual driving skill.
I mean, you talk about single make racing. In full metal racing, there's always going to be a little bit of a difference between the cars, just with how they've been built, been set up. With even if you put the exact same setup on all those cars, there would still be differences between each of them. As we look at Dave Martin now, embroiled in a battle there for 8th in class, and Andrew Pike working his way through there. Whereas in the virtual world, they are all equal. They are all the same. And so therefore, you do get more of an appreciation as to those drivers who are able to extract the most. There's been an incident on the timing screen I can see dropping down. Adam Holloway, who was in 3rd place in the AM class. So something's happened to Adam, and Adam Locke as well is dropping down the order on the timing screen. Yeah,
so... It's not great right now if your name is Adam, but here's Holloway out into the grass a little bit, in towards Vale there. Perhaps missed his braking point just that little bit. It then dipped 2 tyres out into the grass, which doesn't unsettle the car as much these days in iRacing as it used to, but it's still something that you want to avoid. And then it was immediately afterwards into the same bit of racetrack where we had the incident with Adam Locke as well, who was in a battle with Nick Scott in the 25, I believe it was.
Of course, Scott actually working his way through the field after having a nightmare of a start, and it was contact between the two of them. Oh dear. And Adam, that's the worst feeling in motorsport, seeing cars coming through and you've got no way of actually getting back onto the track until they've all gone past you.
Yeah, you just have to sit there and wait, and let me tell you, it is one of the worst feelings because you know the longer you wait there, the more it's going to be more difficult to try and recover from whatever happened to you. So, but you do have to just sort of sit there and take it on the chin, because otherwise, if you rejoin in an unsafe fashion, and you're going to get hit with the penalty for it afterwards. So it's really, you really have no choice but to sit there, really. But talking of instants, though, Paul, we've got an instant limit in this race. We've got if you're unfamiliar with how iRacing handles instant points and things like that, you get 1 for an off track, you get 2 for a spin, you get 4x for contact with another car. And of course, these things can be going from one to the other depending on the situation. Oh, someone's had a big moment. They're in the very background. But it looks like whoever it was able to gather it up in a quite comfortable fashion and continue on with regards to that. But returning back to what I was saying, though, we have a limit of 20 instant points, okay, over the course of the race. So once you get to those 20 points, you're not disqualified. You actually just have to take a drive-through penalty. And then every 10 instants after that, you have to come down on for another penalty. But that's the number 25 having a bit of spin there. That's Nick Scott, I believe, who was involved in an incident that was just a couple of minutes ago, actually. So it's not been a great couple of laps for Nick Scott.
No, absolutely not. David Nichols has decided to come down to pit road after his contact with the wall, and has found himself getting a free repair. You do get a fast repair here in this event, in this series, so it encourages drivers to keep in the race, to be able to score themselves points. So yeah, back out on track is David there. But yeah, the GT4s are giving us some really good action out there, and Sophia Ridpath leading them all, but isn't really getting away from Oliver Ettridge right now.
The gap's looking a little bigger than it was, but you are right. She's not exactly running away at the front of the field. I mean, we have a 1.5 second gap between Eatwell and Hawkins at the front of Pro, so it's definitely quite a bit shorter than that. But heading in towards the Maggots and Beckett section, you're seeing that relative actually extend out quite a bit, up to 1.1. But this will fluctuate in and out as the drivers take the corners coming through here. Yeah, it's been a good run so far for Ridpath. Of course, she got herself on pole position from qualifying, lost the race lead in the very early stages, but didn't panic, was able to get it back with an overtake that we saw coming down into this very corner, in towards Stowe, and has actually done a good job in just eking out that gap bit by bit.
Yeah, just slowly going about her business, and she's doing a sterling job at the front. She's doing a good job in another series that we broadcast here on RaceSpotTV as well. So that form seems to be carrying over into the start of this championship. We have got 2 of your leading pros, Andrew Pike and Dave Martin. So that's 7th and 8th place in class on the bottom of your screen there. They're running line astern right now. They're pretty much the closest fight on the track in your pro class. Everybody else is just spread out a little bit here, and sometimes at Silverstone that can happen. You can have little pockets of action, or you can really spread things out.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, because of course we usually think of this track as a power circuit, and with the vast majority of power circuits, the slipstream is going to be a significant factor. But in this one, it hasn't exactly kept the packs together, has it? At least in the pro category, we've got a decent amount of separation in pros. I mean, we've got Eatwell, who's almost got himself a 2-second gap for the race lead over Hawkins here at the moment, so he's really putting in a massive effort, and everyone else is at least a second, if not more, away from the next car. So we are seeing a good amount of separation here, apart from this battle, of course, between Hawkins and Jordan. So we might see a little spicy situation for P2 in a couple of moments, depending on when Jordan decides to go for that move, if he does at all.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the fastest lap of the race, though, or has the fastest lap of the race so far.
Well, actually, just having a look at that, yeah, Sam Jordan does have that fastest lap. The only reason why Will Eatwell hasn't got the fastest lap of the race is because he hasn't actually set a valid lap. So he must have gone. He must have gone off track multiple times to be able to pick up that level of not being able to set laps. I can tell you, Paul Clist, by the way, is the first driver who has got a black flag for instant point accumulation, so he'll be heading onto pit road for a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, our first victim of the instant point limits. So yeah, you do have to be a bit careful. I mean, ideally, 20 will be more than enough for a 30-minute event. But if you get involved in a couple of things you perhaps shouldn't, or even some things that are not your fault, then those points can add up rather quickly sometimes. So it's good to be cognizant of that fact as things go on. We're riding on board with Dave Martin here. This is number 4 car. This is in the pro category, towards the back of the order in the pro category, but still a battle nonetheless on the back of Andrew Pike. You can see that Martin gained a bit of ground on the exit of the Copse corner here, but it's so hard to try and draw yourself alongside in towards Maggots and Beckett's. It's not the widest piece of road in the world, so even though you might have that run coming out of Copse, you're not always going to make it to the inside or the outside, and even when you do, you're going to lose a ton of time in the battle because it's really a single line complex, at least the fastest way around it.
You could see from that on board just the different lines that were being taken. David was really opening up the final part of Beckett's to then get the run down the hanger straight. Did close up a little bit, and again, going deep is the 7th place driver Andrew Pike. So, Dave is putting the pressure on here right now, and is really, you can see that mistakes are coming in from Pike, and in fact, that's not really an overtaking opportunity, although they might make this one work.
Might be able to maintain the overlap down in towards turn 3. Here we go, Dave Martin down the inside. Such a wide piece of road in stark contrast to Maggots and Beckett's. Pike holding him off on the inside here for the moment, but look at this. Martin's going to get a good run out of this corner, coming on towards the Wellington Straight here in just a second. He really widened out the entry there, and will be able to try and make this happen. Meanwhile, at the bottom of the screen, you've got a battle for P2 in AM between George Cullinan and Oliver Ettridge here, with Elliot getting himself involved here as well. So lots of places to look at all of a sudden with 15 minutes to go.
Yeah, it's almost like drivers have been sort of looking after things, maybe keeping their tyres in check a little bit. Now decided this is the time to start getting a little bit, making moves and making it count. What this has done, it's allowed Sophia Ridpath to really pull away in the lead of that AM category, and so she's got ahead. You are right about the Seb Hawkins race as well, because he's in second, but he is being charged down by Samuel Jordan in the pro class. Again, different lines being taken, but you can do that at that section of the track.
Yeah, that's one of those places where you do have a couple of options to try and negotiate those corners, especially in towards left field. Some like to hug that inside white line all the way around up against the curb. Some like to take it as more of a double apex corner as well. And there's different ways you can negotiate the complex there as well. But here we go, out in towards Maggots and Beckett's once again. You see Elliot on the back of this one in number 6. Don't count him out of this battle, even though he hasn't necessarily been an incredibly active participant in this. He's certainly sitting in a pretty good position to be able to capitalize on the 2 ahead, potentially messing up and impeding each other, and he'll be able to slip through in some way or fashion. But down the hanger straight now, no, not close enough to be able to make any moves towards Stoke Corner. You need to be a little bit more clustered together than they are at the moment, but I think we're setting up for a decent final third of this race.
We certainly are, and yeah, we might actually be looking at the wrong cup battle, because yes, that race for 7th is close in the cup class, but it's the race for P2. Both in Pro and AM, the race for P2 is really close between them. And there we go, we cut to it. So Seb Hawkins, he was just slightly quicker on the last lap than Sam Jordan, but his average pace is about 0.2 of a second slower over 5 laps compared to Samuel. So Samuel is getting there and he is pushing on.
Yeah, and we see a little brief side-by-side there in the package, in the GT4 category for that second place entry. It's going to be slightly compromised here down on towards the Hangar Straights, and it looks like maybe Elliot might be able to have a look on him in this one. Down in towards Brooklands, there's the need to go defensive, though, from Cullinan, and that's a lot further down the road. And, oh, you can see how they now swarm and fan out as as Elliot gets himself towards the inside at Luffield, but he's going to get pinched on the curb there a little bit. Coming towards the exit of the corner now, and they all are able to gather it up. But you see that Cullinan now has got himself a little bit of a buffer zone back to the 57 and the 6 behind. That's going to be very, very welcome, given how many looks that those cars behind have had.
We do actually see Johnny Elia running in the Porsche Club of Great Britain Championship that we cover here on RaceSpotTV. So doing a good job in 4th place in class, but would love to move forward in all of this. But George Cullinan's just got a little bit of breathing space right now, and I think that's counting. Meanwhile, in your Cup class, they've just caught up to Quist. Oh, lap traffic, and off they both go.
Yep, this is multi-class lap traffic. They're getting around Clist here at the moment. Here comes Southfield. Southfield has been able to get himself involved in this battle now, looking towards the outside, becomes the inside for Luffield here. This gives Hawkins perhaps a little bit of breathing room. And there we go. There's the pass made by Southfield up in towards 3rd place.
Good opportunism right there from Jack, but this one's not over yet, because look at that. All over the back then from Jordan. Trying to get the cut under, not going to work at Cop's corner. Meanwhile, Seb Hawkins is going, cheers, Jack. Thanks a lot. You've just made my life a lot easier. I'm off.
Yeah, he's running for the hills now. Just thinking, yeah,
Sedgley's on the back of it.
Yeah, so everyone's been catching up to this particular battle. I mean, that little sequence would have definitely helped Sedgley lock onto the back. But remember, we still have this battle for second in Ham as well. So 2 huge Titanic battles happening in both classes for the final 10 minutes of this one. And remember, this is just our first race, not only of the season, but of the race evening. We'll have another one after this one to enjoy.
Oh yeah, settle down. Beverage of your choice here. It is a Sunday evening after all, so just maybe in moderation. But this is certainly one that is surely heating up here into that final 10 minutes. We're in that final third, and yeah, Daniel Sedgley's been watching from the wings, and he's waiting for an opportunity. He saw how Jack Southfield was able to take an opportunity, and he's thinking maybe I could do the same. That GT, the AM class battle, that's still pretty much staying as it is for the time being, but time is running out for these drivers now. We've got about, what, 5 laps remaining?
Yeah, something like that. It's I'm not good at mental maths, Paul, so I'm probably not the best person to ask for it. Look at the weaving that's going on in the AM class. They're really, I mean, it kind of is a little bit annoying sometimes seeing all that weaving, the changes of direction, but it does show that the mentality of the drivers in that they're very, very eager to get on with this battle.
But you can do that weaving to a point. And I think that Cullinan was just far enough ahead where he could do more than one move. If he was to do it now, however, I just think that car in 3rd place of Oliver Etheridge is just that little bit too close to not have it classed as 2 moves. Oh, going side by side into Beckett's is not the best idea.
No, and it's well, they've been able to bail out of that one in a comfortable fashion, though. I guess good job in making sure that wasn't a humongous incident down in towards that very fast section. But here comes Samuel Jordan. Oh, he's going to try and look for the inside, but it was closed off. There was absolutely no way through there. Southfield did block it off, but Jordan's going to have to commit around the outside, but he's going to lose a lot of ground. The tire's not wanting to grip up. And now here comes Sedgley down driver's right-hand side. He's going to try and go for the move on the driver ahead as well on Southfield, but no, drops back into this side-by-side battle with Jordan instead. And remember, you have Kieran Sharp now getting himself involved. We're on board with Sharp actually with the driver's eye view as they come across the start-finish line now. It all gets close, coming down the pit straight, swinging in towards turn 1 now.
I tell you what, this is hard but respectful racing going on here. This is what perfect way to start the championship here than having this type of action on your screens. Sensational stuff. And I mentioned it about, if a car's too close, you can only make that one move. That's exactly what Jack Southfield did down the Hanger Straight. He made one move and he stuck to it. That forced Samuel Jordan to take that wide line through Stir. That allowed Daniel Sedgley to make the move. Didn't stick, but Sedgley certainly is putting the pressure on Jack Southfield, on Samuel Jordan now.
Yeah, and again, it's given Southfield a bit of a buffer. So that's the situation that we have now. But there's not a lot of time left in the race to try and get this done. So this might still yet come to a head in the final couple of laps here. Just to give you an update on GT4 land, well, Sophia Ridpath has waltzed away from the battling behind. So she's got 6.7 on George Cullen at the moment. But we saw the reason for that, though, didn't we? We saw the big battle pack of that second at that second place, which is not conducive to fast lap times.
Certainly not, and that will just allow Sophia to pull away, but she's got a comfortable lead. She just needs to focus on hitting her marks, hitting the braking points and apexes. This is just separated out a little bit. Daniel Sedgley has just dropped back just that little bit here in this one, and that's just taking the pressure off of Samuel Jordan here. But certainly this one is not over yet with 5 minutes to go. We've got 3 laps remaining in this race.
We do. We absolutely do. Things, do spread out just a little bit here, but I think this will be a little brief. And remember, we do have bits of lap traffic for these pro drivers to deal with as well. We've got Christopher Humphreys, which is the next car down the road from these guys' perspective, heading in towards the village corner now. So how do they negotiate this? They try and get themselves towards the inside for the loop as that GT4 gets well out of the way to allow at least 2 of the pro drivers through, but it looks like essentially it's going to have to go the long way around at the exit of the loop on towards the Wellington Straight. That's never ideal, and in fact it has lost essentially a little bit of time here. Yeah,
but that GT4, it had nowhere to go in all of that, and did the right thing, holding their line. That's what you're expected to do if you're getting lapped and you're in the slower class car. Just hold your line, allow the others to decide where they're going to go, and be predictable. And that's exactly what you saw there from Christopher Humphreys. So yeah, good driving, good heads-up driving from Christopher. But these guys, they're still at each other's throats, and Jordan is caught back up to the back of Jack Southfield now.
Yeah, look at it, just basically riding the back bumper all the way through Maggots and Beckett's, but maybe a little bit too much there, because you saw Jordan just wash out, lose the rear end, lose the back end of that of Southfield ahead, and then potentially might drop back into the clutches of Sedgley, into the clutches of Sharp as well, a little bit further down this train. But yeah, this is looking very, very interesting here for our final couple of minutes of the event. In towards Stoke Corner now. Jordan able to close up just that little bit again with the help of the slipstream down the Hanger Straight, and I get the feeling that he has a bit more clear air performance here as well, does Jordan, over Southfield. You can see how he closes up in towards the Vale.
Yeah, getting really close, and yeah, you just think that Jordan's just got that little bit of an edge of pace right now. And as we go across the line, and yeah, Jordan was just short of 0.5, a half a second quicker than Southfield in front, and Southfield's taking that defensive line. He feels the need to take a defensive line. Watch him hold it tight here in the loop, but Jordan's going to try and get that cut back, but no. Southfield parks the car on the apex. He's entirely entitled to do so, but it does mean that he can just hold on for the time being. But look at this. Jordan is on a charge.
It really is. Just given the show of the nose in towards Brooklands, but no reaction there from Southfield. He's going to have to put out a pretty impressive defense here to keep Jordan and the others behind. That's going to be my conjecture as they head through the exit of left field now. Jordan is very, very close indeed. He's going to sit in that slipstream all the way down the old pit straight. Now you can see the defensive move to the inside for Southfield, moving back to the middle of the circuit to try and angle out the corner as much as possible. But look at the run from Jordan. Can he keep his foot in it? I think he can. There's a lap traffic on the left-hand side who's getting out of the way as we're getting towards Maggots for the one of the final times here in this one. But Southfield is able to still keep himself ahead despite the immense pressure.
Johnny Ely is dropping down the order in the AM class. Something's happened to Johnny, but this is where the excitement's at, and this has been really intense stuff. I thought that Southfield had made a mistake taking that defensive line into Cops. Oh, darting to the inside. Oh, just can't quite get alongside to make the move there, Jordan.
Not the first time Jordan's gone for that move, that fake towards the outside to then nip it underneath, but I think Southfield is very much aware of it. Sedgley on the back in towards the Vale chicane, though. A little bit of a missed first apex there from Jordan will compromise his run through the entire complex as they head their way through Club Corner here. This is a really spicy battle, and speaking of spicy battles, you have 3 wide down in towards the Vale. I think this was big spin there and big incidents. Yeah, this is what happened to Elia on the replay there on the big part of the picture.
I remember that was for second place in class as well, with George Cullinan and Oliver Etheridge as well. So Etheridge turning Elia around there, and Elia's down to 8th place in all of that.
Yes, and well, this is with the positioning of Will Eatwell at the moment. This is the final lap for these guys, so very limited opportunities now for these positions to try and sort themselves out. They have spread out just that little bit more, but we know how these battles tend to close up in the slipstream. Of course, we'll get another bunch of it on the way out of Luffields and through the towards Cops Corner. There's the confirmation of the final lap in the top left-hand side of your screen for your leaders, though. It's just a simple drive to the end, but for a lot of others here in these 2 classes, it may not be done just yet. There's Will Eatwell, who has made a stellar performance in this first race of this competition to gain 6 seconds over his closest competitor, and he'll come down the hangar straight for the final time here, dealing with a little bit of GT4 traffic, but there's going to be no dramas in that whatsoever. It's been incredible here for Will. What a start to the season.
Yeah, great stuff from Will, and he's just controlled things from the front. Very mature performance, and yeah, good result, well deserved.
Yeah, we got Will Eatwell coming towards the line now. So for the first round, the first race of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain, our pro winner will be Will Eatwell. Number 54 Porsche comes across the line to take the race win here in race 1 at Silverstone. Very well done to him, a very well managed race indeed. Meanwhile, Sebastian Hawkins comes across in second. Southfield does in fact hold on for 3rd place in class, by the way. But that's the top 3 in pro. Then you've got further down the field inside of your inside GT4s. They are actively battling for 2nd place, by the way. But it's Sophia Ridbath who takes the first and win. And there's an instant for P2 behind. Cullinan is around, and it's Ettridge that comes through. There's just parked on the outside of the corner. That's not ideal. GT4 battle's not done, by the way. Cullinan, he's going to be feeling really bad about that one. We'll get to see what the instant on the replay here in just a couple of moments, but the GT4 battle's not finished here for second place because Graham Brown up into second place. We haven't talked about him all race, and all of a sudden he's going to get second step in the podium potentially here in this GT4 category. Holloway having to try and defend here from Ettridge in the very latter stages of this lap through Magnussen Beckett. It's going to be a charge down Hanger Straight to try and decide this one now. Here's the onboard here with Ettridge. Gonna have to sit in that slipstream for as much as possible. Underneath the bridge they go, and now does he dive it to the inside for Stowe? The door's open and he goes for it. The massive lunge from Ettridge. Holloway's going to try and come back up underneath him though. Will he be successful? It's a battle for P3 now as we see Brown try and get away for P2. There's the lunge again from Holloway to try and get it back, and Ettridge has to relinquish the position. What great fighting that we saw in the final podium places here of the GT4 category. Brown is second, Holloway's third, and Ettridge in fourth place.
Take a breath there, Connor. You had a lot to talk about there, but my goodness, what great action here in the opening round of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain. That was sensational stuff. And I mean, yeah, George Cullinan will be absolutely furious at what happened there at Lowfield, but credit to Sophia Ridpath. She lost the lead at the start of the race, got to the front, and then never looked back.
Wins by 16 seconds thanks to the battling at the end there. Not bad going whatsoever, but what a last couple of laps there from Graham Brown. Like, again, one of the drivers we didn't think was in the conversation for that fight, just silently working in the background. All of a sudden, he's got himself a P2. But here's the unofficial race results, of course, because we do have protests and penalties to potentially be handed out by the stewards at the end of the proceedings here today. So these are provisional, but what I don't think is provisional is a Will Eatwell win. So he's won by 6.9 seconds over Sebastian Hawkins there. Then we've got Jack Southfield there, holds on to a third place podium finish for Southfield, despite the amount of pressure that he was put under from Jordan and from Sedgley, who round out your top five. Then you've got Kieran Sharp in P6 with Andrew Pike in P7, Dave Martin, Ryan Elliott, and Thor Tuller will round out the top 10 in terms of pro, and Nick Scott will be our 11th place driver at the very back. But everyone actually ended up finishing in that pro category. Meanwhile, in AM, what a chaotic race for anyone other than Sophia Ridpath, it seems. She did very well and finished 16 seconds ahead of the rest, but it was a massive gaggle of cars. Graham Brown, Adam Holloway, Oliver Ettridge come across the line in that order for second, third, and fourth. What an incredible battle between those drivers. You got Stephen Hobbs there, who was able to gain a position at the end, of course, due to the issues that Cullinan had with being spun around on the final lap. Same with Dan Blake and Elliot as well. But Cullinan, 8th place. That one is gonna hurt Paul, because he was running inside those podium positions pretty much all day, and to have it end like that is he's gonna feel disappointed.
Yeah, as I say, absolutely furious with what's happened there, but yeah, certainly great racing to watch as a neutral. Maybe not if you're a competitor there, but Graham Brown, 4 positions gained in that race.
Yeah, incredible stuff. Here's the very back of the AM order. Toby Andrews, Adam Locke, David Nichols, Christopher Humphreys, and Paul Clist having various kinds of issues over the course of this first event. But you don't want to go away, because we have another 30-minute race coming up after this, which is going to be absolutely incredible, because we had an amazing finish here for this first race. Let's hope that carries on into the second event, especially if we're looking down in AM, seeing how many positions that Cullinan can recover here in this one. But as we are sort of sitting here waiting for the next session to go up, we may get ourselves an opportunity to do a couple of interviews here. And, well, we've got a choice of second-place drivers, Paul. Which one do you want?
I would say just speak to Sebastian Hawkins first, because he had a bit of pressure in that race, and certainly he would have been under pressure. Sebastian, first of all, congratulations, second place on the opening round of the championship, but it wasn't that easy, was it, for you out there?
It's a good way to put it. Um, no, it was good. I was quite surprised with qualifying, to be honest with you, because there's some great drivers. I've seen some good pace in practice, and I've seen some good pace in that sort of qualifying session as well. So, yeah, it was. I had the pace at the start. I wanted to save the tyres. I was a bit nervous where things could go, and then pretty much from the first time I defended, the front tyres had it, and then with a bit of GT4, I think. I was basically looking after them to the end. And the unfortunate thing with this car is as soon as you get into a battle, you've pretty much got rid of the tyres for the rest of the race. You've got to really choose when you want to fight, when you feel like you can keep the pace and keep up with the front. And yeah, I think I took the best option.
You must have been relieved to see Jack Southfield throw a move on Samuel Jordan, because Samuel was putting some pressure on you and you were able to just gap out from that because they were busy fighting over each other. Yeah,
I think, exactly how you put it. It was just a case of just seeing, how that pans out behind, making sure to keep nice and clean and tidy in all my lines. It takes one small mistake, one small lock-up, and you've thrown the whole thing away. So, I think it's just the nature of these cars is very tough to drive. You're always balancing on the limit. I think we're all sort of sat in the same position with the setup. And it was good to see them drop back, but equally, definitely being kept very keen and lucky to keep up there.
Well, what I will say is wish you all the best for the second race of the evening. Congratulations, though, on second place in this first race.
Thank you very much.
That's Seb Hawkins, and hopefully we can get to speak to Graham Brown as well, because we barely spoke about you, Graham, throughout the broadcast, because there were all those drivers in front racing. But how was that for you, being able to come up to that battle for second and be able to snatch that in the end?
Yeah, it was a complete shock to me, really. I was sort of like, there's just creeping away ever so slowly, lap by lap. So I thought, I don't have the pace today. And then they started battling, and I saw the time come down and thought, do you know what? If something happens, it could be on. And then lo and behold, like 2 or 3 incidents, and then, just basically got a gift. And it's like I saw Adam behind me just slowly catching up, and he was just basically just trying to hit our markers and keep it clean, and then let the carnage unfold ahead. Good tactics in the end.
Yeah, you've got to take advantage of incidents that happen, don't you, and take the opportunistic moves. I mean, it's a gain of 4 places for you through that race, so you've had an eventful time in that opening round. Just how was it racing these GT4s around Silverstone?
A lot of fun, actually. I've not driven the GT4s before, so it's like a steep learning curve for me. But yeah, I've got a nice feel for them. They're quite easy handling. And just disappointed there wasn't so much wheel-to-wheel racing for myself until the end, but we'll see what happens in race 2.
Absolutely. Race 2 coming up. Thank you very much, Graham, and all the best for that second race.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
We do have one more driver who is joining us as well for a chat from third place in the AM category. That's Adam Holloway. Adam, you started third, you finished third. If nothing else, consistent.
Yeah, all that for nothing. No change in position. No, it was good fun. I think the qualifying to result doesn't do justice to the amount of stuff going on there.
Well, it doesn't exactly tell the tale of the race for you, does it? Because you're getting involved with. I mean, Sophia Ridpath didn't get the best of start, so you had the opportunity with her, and then Oliver and Johnny Elia as well, George Cullinan. It was a really hard-fought race for you guys.
Yeah, well, there were a couple of Porsche Cup cars that didn't get off the line very well, so it was all a bit hectic at the start. And I could see from practice and qualifying that there was going to be no catching Sophia. So I just thought, try and hold on to second and see where we end up. And missed my braking marker going into the chicane one lap, and found myself in 6th, and just knuckled down and kept putting in the laps.
Well, I mean, we've got one more race coming up this evening. How are you feeling going into that one now, knowing the lay of the land here?
I guess more confident than I did the first one. I really wasn't sure what to expect pace-wise, but yeah, I've got an idea of the drivers around me, and see what happens.
Well, wish you all the best. Congratulations on third place in class.
Thank you.
Well, there we go. Thank you very much for those. Thank you very much for those interviews, Paul. And it's great to hear from a couple of our drivers here at the end of race number 1. We'll be imminently heading into race 2 session here in just a couple of moments' time. But that was a great start to the season, if you ask me. Yes, the race leaders got away, so we don't have much of action with regards to the actual race wins at the end of the day. But for those podium positions in both categories, that was pretty good.
Yeah, it was really exciting stuff for second place, not just in your pro category, but also in AM. I think the AM one actually took the biscuit as to the excitement. It really did. It was just all race through. Fantastic to watch from them. But it wasn't just racing for second place. We saw the Andrew Pike and Dave Martin battle. That rolled on until the very end of the race. So, those two were separated by a small margin across the line in the pro class as well. So there's plenty out there for these drivers to be able to fight for, and it's certainly entertaining for us to watch out here.
Yeah, it absolutely was. I don't think we could have asked for much better of a start to the season. But again, we're not done here this evening. We're going to be heading in towards race 2. It's going to be the exact same format, 30 minutes race, no reverse grids or anything to deal with. It's just a grid directly from the results of this first race. So that means if you had a poor race 1, you're going to start at a poor place in race 2. So that's going to be the interesting dynamic here for this one. Of course, not so much necessarily in the pro category, but in the AM, where we had a lot of drivers end up one lap down and things like that and have issues and drop towards the back of the field. It'll be very interesting to see how those can work their way back through, especially, of course, given we saw Cullinan at the end have his issue, to see where he's able to get for this second race. It's going to be a tough ask, of course, but it's certainly something to look forward to.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how Johnny Elia and George Cullinan are able to work their way through the field after having their incidents for the two of those drivers. So definitely be intriguing to see how they can try and work their way through. But it's a competitive field here. It really is. And this is exactly what we wanted to see from this championship. And long may it continue for the rest of this evening and the rest of the championship. Let's not forget as well, though, these drivers, there's only 4 weeks to this championship. So if you have a bad round anywhere, you're making life a lot more difficult in the terms of the championship.
Yeah, of course. You can miss a couple of races here in this series. There is a provision for that in the rules, so you can still take part in the championship if you miss races. But yeah, it's definitely not a lot of time to get things done, so to speak. So you really need the wind in your sails. You needed to get a good result here in these first 2 races to be able to have a realistic shot at the championship at the end of the day. So that's going to be very, very intriguing. Of course, it's the top 3 from each category that get themselves the Porsche prize packages with the Porsche experience and things like that. But yeah, you still want to go for gold, right?
Oh, absolutely. Any driver who doesn't, who says they're just taking part in a championship, we'll just see if to have a bit of fun. No, deep down, the competitors, they want to be able to win a championship here. Some more realistic than others, but certainly everyone at the start of a season just think, if I get a couple of results go my way, maybe, just maybe, I can get myself a championship here. But we'll eat well. I mean, you can't really say much more than perfect start to the season, was it? Pole position, led every lap. Didn't get fastest lap, though, so he didn't quite get the Grand Chelem.
No, not quite, but I mean, I think that might be asking a little bit too much for the first round of things. There's also another interesting thing to note, spotted in the prize pool. For each round, drivers will get picked at random, and 5 of them will get themselves a Porsche Motorsport cap. I'm pretty sure I have one downstairs, but I couldn't find it.
Well, as long as they provide a flat cap for the commentators, and that's all right. I'll be happy with that. But yeah, absolutely. Some great prizes that Porsche are putting on to the table here for all the competitors here in this series, and it's great to see their involvement in this championship and getting involved in such a big way. For a new series, it's great to see this out here.
Yeah, it's great to see the support from Porsche Cars GB. Is the primary feature of this particular championship, the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain. But we are slowly but surely getting ourselves in towards that second race session. Of course, drivers will have a little bit of time to try and get themselves prepared for this. Maybe there's a different situation with regards to weather and things like that, so they'll have to acclimatize just that little bit. But this second race is looking like it's going to be more of the same potentially. I have to wonder whether or not both Will Eatwell and Sophia Ripav will be able to run away at the front of their respective fields again, because both of them actually had the luxury of having fights behind them. So then they were able to manage the tires, because we saw Seb talk about how it was a struggle keeping the tires in the right operating window when you're having to fight. But if they don't have that luxury this time around, then potentially we might see that competitive fight for P2 become the competitive fight for race 1. For P1, sorry.
And that would be great for us here in the commentary box, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It would certainly give us some excitement to talk about. Yeah, it's certainly going to be a real challenge for them. But as we say, if you're able to manage those tyres, said lap 1 of that first race, it's cold tyres and brakes going into turns 1, 2, and 3. Especially into that turn 3 at Village. That is where you're going to have that struggle, because you've not had the chance to get a little bit of heat in, because normally if they do a rolling start here at Silverstone, they start at the end of the hangar straight into Stowe. It gives you a little opportunity to get just some sort of heat into those tyres, just give you a little bit of something. But when you're starting from a standing start, stone cold, bang, away you go, and all of a sudden you're in a pack and you hit that brake pedal for the first time and you're thinking, have I got the grip there or not? I'm about to find out.
Yeah. It's always a bit sketchy, and of course for the GT4 field in particular, a standing start is not necessarily always done in the categories that in the races and the series that they race in. It's usually they're part of a multi-class order, like they are here, but it's going to be a rolling start. But to not have that here is particularly interesting. Of course, the Cup cars, they're used to standing starts, it's fine. But even though it might be a bit more complicated for them with the clutch and lack of traction control, but yeah, it does make those first laps kind of sketchy sometimes.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And you're in a pack of cars. I know from doing various other series, not in a Porsche. I'm not good enough for Porsches, hence why I'm in the commentary box. But, from other series, being in that pack, it is really tricky. You've got to have eyes on the back of your head. You've got to have the feel of that car in the opening lap or two whilst you get the grip coming in. But then you have a sweet spot of about 2-3 laps where you think, I've got all the grip in the world, I can really be aggressive. That's the worst thing you can do, especially in a 30-minute race, because you abuse those tyres early, you overheat them, and it's very difficult to get them back into a workable zone.
Yeah, and like I said, we saw Seb Hawkins talk about that in his interview, and I did want to talk about him a little bit, because I mentioned at the start of the broadcast he is the team manager for Guild Esports. Definitely a decent-sized esports team in the grand scheme of things. They came into sim racing relatively recently, actually, and of course they have their fingers in many pies when it comes to other esports on other games as well. But it was very interesting actually seeing him on the grid, because again, we don't typically see him as a sort of active roster driver. He's just the manager, so to speak. But he certainly does seem to still have the pace, and of course, a lot of these team managers do have a background of actually racing in these things, in the past. So it's not necessarily all that surprising, as it would be in other esports. But it's great to have him here, and again, still has it.
Yeah, certainly does. I've actually commentated on him in another series here. It was a couple of years ago now that he competed in that, when he was team manager of Williams Esports. So I've seen Seb compete, and he is he can be a feisty character when he's involved in a battle, and he's certainly does know how to pedal a car. So if ever you wanted a team manager who can suit up and jump into the racing seat, well, that's somebody that I would want behind the wheel, that is for sure. But it was a good second place for him in that first race. Whether we see that again in the second race, though, that's going to be a tall order.
Yeah, it is. Potentially a bit of a different strategy, maybe having to go aggressive early on Will, who will be starting from pole position, try and gain that position. But then again, like you said, you risk burning up the tires in that situation as well if you are a bit too aggressive about it, and then you're going to be hurting for the entire rest of the race as a result, as the tire temperatures and the wear can be a little bit sensitive here in iRacing sometimes, especially given we have a fixed setup. You can't do anything to try and alleviate that.
Well, I want to tell you something from the drivers are just in the warm-up at the moment for this one. 35.6 degrees is the track temperature, so it's a good 14.5 degrees Celsius hotter track condition compared to that first race. So looking after your tyres is actually going to become more of an issue for those drivers out there, and we could see a few more just having grip issues.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a hot day. I mean, it's been unseasonably hot here in the UK recently, isn't it? It's, today it didn't feel like October whatsoever. If you live anywhere sort of anywhere in the south, I suppose, because I know Scotland was relatively chilly today. But yeah, unseasonable weather, both in real life and of course in the sim as well. So that one's going to be an interesting predicament for the drivers, and like you said, the hotter track temperatures are not going to help those tire issues whatsoever. So this one might be a bit of an ice skating rink by the time we get to the final couple of laps.
Could well be, but we're getting ready for the gridding of the field. So I suppose I'll hand that over to you, Connery, to talk us through his grid.
Yeah, absolutely. We will not have a lot of time to do this, so we'll have to speed through it. So Willie will start pole position, then Seb Hawkins, then Jack Southfield, Samuel Jordan, Daniel Sedgley, Kieran Sharp as the top 6 in Pro. Then you've got everyone else in their order behind. Pike, Martin, Elliott, Tiller, Scott in terms of the end of the Pro category. Then we've got ourselves AM, so we've got Sophia Ridpath starting in pole position there. Then we got Graham Brown with a surprise P2 finish, gets himself second place on the grid. Then you got Holloway, Ettridge, Hobbs, Blake, and Elliott further down the order. Cullinan will start from P19 overall here with Graveson, Basson, Andrews, Locke, and Nichols rounding out the 24 cars. And then at the very back of the starting grid, we have Christopher Humphreys and Paul Clist, who had issues in the first race and are starting from the back in this one. But we are ready to go here for race 2 of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain here at Silverstone. Final of race of the evening is about to get itself the green flag. We are heading our way down in towards turn number 1 at Abbey. A big fan out from behind, though. One of the Pro drivers got an awful start from the very back of the grid and actually has gotten swallowed up by the GT4s. Meanwhile, in the battles further up the fields, we've got ourselves very clean through the first couple of corners. Now we're going to fan out once again. Battle for the race leaders. Hawkins goes to the inside on Eatwell, but not able to get significantly alongside enough to make it an overlap in towards the loop. You've got battles going on down in Am as well, as Sophia Ridpath are going to have to try and defend from pressure from behind. And also a Pro driver who had an awful start. That was Nick Scott that had an issue.
It was Thor Tiller then who was terrible getting off the start. Oh, there was a car off in the background of shot then. I think it was Paul Clist. He's dropped to the bottom of the timing standings right now. But yeah, it was a poor start from Thor Tiller to be able to not get away from the start and got swallowed up by those GT4s. But again, Eatwell's trying to make a breakaway at the head of your field.
Yep, he is, and actually has gained a couple of tenths of a second already. We got side by side down in towards Copse Corner. That's Dave Martin down the inside of Ryan Elliott here. Elliott will try and come back at him through the exit of the corner. We'll have the momentum coming in towards Maggots, and he swings around the outside, but they make contact, and Elliott's out in towards the kitty litter. Is he able to avoid the barriers? Yes, he is, but a lot of lost time, and he might even take the toe.
I bet Ryan's... I'm surprised he did take the toe, but I would be surprised if he had any damage from that at all. But Ryan must have been thanking iRacing for changing their grass and gravel model to slow that car down before it went careening into the wall. But still, Eatwell's under a bit of pressure from Seb Hawkins, and Jack Southfield round the outside now at Club. That gives him the inside here.
Yeah, decent lunge there in the early stages from Southfield. He'll have the inside for Club Corner as well, which is a positive thing to have happen. And on towards the exit curb is Southfield now, up in towards P2 in AM. And Ewell's just going to be loving this at the moment, because again, for a second race in a row, it's a squabble over P2 that's allowing him to try and gap everyone else behind. And Hawkins going to have none of it. He's going to briefly go for the inside there in towards Village, but the line was closed off there by Southfield. There's the lunge again. Surprise lunge from Hawkins, but again, unsuccessful. He just can't get by.
Here's a replay then of what happened to Clist. Oh, and it was the 69 car of Christopher Humphreys that just collected him, came off on the curb and went into him. So that's what happened to Clist on that opening lap. But yeah, I told you Seb can be a bit feisty at times, and certainly he's showing that. But that is, as you say, allowing Will Eatwell to just waltz away at the front.
Yeah. And like I said, second race in a row that this has happened. So it's been a relatively simple affair for that number 54 at the moment, as everyone else behind trips over each other. Here comes Kieran Sharp now looking to the inside for Cops Corner, going to back out of that move. That is a very, very risky one indeed. But both of them have compromised momentum into there. Now Samuel Jordan, we're riding with the sort of visor cam with him, towards the outside, in towards Maggots. No overlap for Beckett. Just going to have to try and back out of that one and live to fight another day.
I do love when we go to that visor cam. Just gives you what the drivers are looking at, what they're seeing, and gives you that feeling of what they're having to put up with. But look at that Jack Southfield now, feeling the need to break the draft. Seb Hawkins isn't following him there, though, down the hanger straight. There is an argument that just weaving down the straight actually lengthens the track for you, because you're taking much further to actually get to the same place. So Seb taking that direct route down the inside. That's Jordan looking to get past Kieran Sharp.
Yeah, looking to try and get past. Will have an opening underneath here in towards Club Corner. It gets all tight through there. Oh, almost a bit of contact coming off there. But Jordan then has to fall in behind, in towards Abbey, our turn one here at Silverstone. And, well, maybe another opportunity in towards Village as they head their way through the exit of the farm. You can angle yourself to the inside here pretty easily, but the option's not taken just yet. A bit of an awkward corner there for Sharp. We'll have to try and defend now in towards the loop. Jordan taking that big wide arc on entry to try and find the speed off the corner, but doesn't quite get the power application down.
Yeah, and Daniel Sedgell is looking keen as well in his Olympus Esports car, and he'll be trying to move forward in all of this. Did the pretty much where they started, or Kieran Sharp up 2 places from where he started. Jordan and Sedgley losing a place each at the start of this race, but we've only had 5 minutes, so plenty of time to go in this one, and it can be a case of who can look after their tyres the best. I know we've been talking about it before the start of the race with the temperature of the track, but it really is that important that if you can look after your tyres in the early going, you will have so much more advantage going into the latter part of the race. And if you're someone like Daniel Sedgley, don't be fighting tooth and nail with the cars in front. Let them fight, use up their tyres, build up that heat in those tyres, and then essentially we'll have more grip. And there's a big moment through the exit of Beckett's into Chapel.
Yeah, Sam John, he has a slowdown penalty for that as well. So as well as being offline, which is by default slower in most cases, he's also going to have to try and serve that on the way down into a Stowe corner. He did decide to serve the bulk of it there, and in fact has it cleared by the time you go into Stowe, but you don't need to serve it immediately, do you, Paul? You do have a bit of leeway where you can just sort of smother it out across 20 seconds or so.
It's about 30 seconds or so is that. And the thing is, though, here at Silverstone, that hanger straight is a big chunk of time in itself. So, you know, you need to lose some of that slowdown penalty at that point. And with Stowe Corner being such a fast corner in itself, you don't want to be getting in people's ways, because you then end up potentially causing an accident by being slow through the middle of Stowe.
Yeah, here's the battles in AM continuing on as well. Ridpuffer's similar to Eatwell has run away at the front of GT4 class. Oh, we got someone around. That's the 555. Yeah, I think that's Adam Locke. That's had a bit of an issue there down in AM. But we do still have that battle for P2 in the AM class. This time it's Holloway and Ettridge, the drivers involved in that one, the 81 and the 57. There they are on the bottom of your screen. Lurking in the background, though, is Graham Brown, our P2 holder from race number 1. Of course, has lost a couple of positions here off of the start. But, I mean, he set himself up quite well for the rest of this race now because he was just consistent there in sitting behind and just allowed the others to chip over each other. He might have to do so again.
And he admitted that he's maybe not got the pace in that interview with him. You know, he may not have the pace of those in front of him, but you've got to be in it to win it, and you've got to be in and around those others that you're racing with to be able to potentially make some moves on them and to get those good positions on the podium. But that AM field, Sophia Ridpath going through the foreground of the shot, she's already been able to gap out a 2.5 second lead right now, and even more now.
Yeah, it's looking very, very good for Ridpath down in that AM category now. Might be on for potentially a double race win, but I don't necessarily want to speak too soon. It's the same situation with Eatwell at the front of Pro Class. You never know what might happen in these next 22 minutes. You know, because we do have, you know, sim racing issues sometimes with the connection, with hardware failures and things like that. I don't want to curse them, but that's sometimes the reality that they have to deal with. Meanwhile, we got this battle going on down in towards Vale. It's Cullinan scything his way through the field on both Dan Blake and Elliot's trying to follow through in his tire tracks here. Gets towards the inside of Blake through Club Corner, but has to back out of it and sit behind just for another little while.
Yeah, John Healy has been working with George Cullinan there, working his way through. I mean, Healy is only up 1 place at the moment. Cullinan up 4 places in the race right now, so he certainly is having a good run of it. We said, you know, we were wondering how George would get on working his way through the field. Well, we're seeing that right now. Meanwhile, Elia nearly 9 seconds back from the leader in class. It's going to be a tall order to catch time. You're needing mistakes from others out there. As looking to the inside. No, bad to back out of it then.
Yeah, that was a very, very risky move, but no contact in the end. Elliot, again, trying to apply that pressure to the back of Blake, but Blake's having none of it here at the moment, so Elliot potentially might be losing time here to Cullinan, because they, like you said, they were trying to get through the field together, but they haven't been successful in sticking together here, because Blake has been able to separate them and cause a few problems here for Elliot, but he's well within his rights too. It's a fight for the position in the end, even though there might be a pace difference. You are entitled to hold on to your position. That's just motorsports, I'm afraid, and Elliot will just have to try and find a way through here.
Oh, this is what's happened to Daniel Sedgley then. So I wondered why Sedgley had dropped down a couple of places in the field, and that's why just having to get out of it mid as you're turning in, and the back end rotates, and it is a rear-engine car, is this? So once the back end goes, it rotates around, and that's like a pendulum. Does that engine? We have lost David Nichols as well from the AM class, and he's been racing in VR, but his VR headset crashed, and he's had to retire.
Oh no, that's unfortunate. That's again. Did I just curse him by talking about hardware failures? I think I did, Paul.
That's not the strongest strain of commentators' curse, but it's definitely in there.
Yeah,
it's been cut with something else.
Oh, instant the AM class through the high-speed entry at Stoke Corner. Not Stoke Corner, excuse me, Cops Corner.
Cops.
Yeah, that's Nichols having a bit of a tangle, getting spout out into a spit. Well, I'm going to get my words in correctly at some point here, Paul. Getting spit out towards the exit of Cops Corner.
Yeah, not been a good day at the office for David. Of course, he was the car that went and said hello to the pit wall in the first race. So, yeah, been a day to forget in that category. But there's 3 more rounds, 3 more weeks of the championship, should I say, to come. So you want to turn up and finish those races and get yourselves the best possible results here. But we're still intrigued by this race for second place in Adam Holloway is just holding on to it ahead of Oliver Etheridge, and again Ryan Brown's just loitering with intent.
Yeah, this is basically a continuation from race 1, isn't it? It's great to see these guys continuing to circulate together. Of course, it doesn't seem to be that any of them are on the pace of Ridpath at the moment, who's continuing to extend the advantage at the front. But battle for the final 2 steps on the podium in AM class. Once again, we saw how exciting it was in race number 1. Let's see if we can get ourselves a repeat here for race 2, but there's still a decent way to go here in this one, so a lot of time for things to change and events to happen. We've got the visor cam with Etheridge here, who's again has just been comfortably sitting in that 3rd place here for the moment. He hasn't been going for any lunges, any big looks or anything like that. He's just sort of happy to sit behind, manage the tires for now, which is going to be important over the course of this race. We've got 35 degrees Celsius on the track temp at the moment, which is still significantly higher than we had in race 1. So maybe a sit back and conserve approach for the first maybe 3/4 of this race might be a winning strategy.
Yeah, it could well be, and there's a little bit of a wiggle then from Holloway, having to just brake mid-corner then, so Oliver Etheridge just having to get out of it at the loop through Aintree. But this is the Wellington Straight. This is a good opportunity to have a slipstream going into Brooklands. Of course, corner named after the first ever permanent circuit in the world, and that was deep from Holloway, but Etheridge not able to take advantage.
No, absolutely not, and stuck on the outside, the extreme outside for Luffield corner, but he's able to gather it up, not allow Brown behind to have any sort of opportunity. He's a little bit too far off the back to be able to capitalize on that one. Etheridge going to catch up in the slipstream here towards Copse Corner. We have a change for, an active battle for 5th place. Jordan versus Pike in that one, and potentially might be a big lunge down towards Stowe Corner there in that pro category. And to the side-by-side they go through Club Corner.
That's P2.
Excuse me.
That is 2nd place. A little bit of rubbing and door banging there. Southfield and Hawkins is going to try and get that one done, but Southfield's fighting back. Don't squeeze each other. Nailing contact between the 2 of them again. All of this is allowing Kieran Sharp to catch up to them. Now Hawkins needs to get the cut back here. Needs to get the run through the corner, the better launch to carry that speed down the Wellington Straight. He's got a nose in there. That's enough. Hawkins, can he hold on to this one into Brooklands?
Yeah, it's a big move. We had simultaneous fights going on there. Almost a little bit of trading paint down towards the braking zone for Brooklands as Hawkins holds it on the inside there, gets himself clear in towards Luffield. Finally, Hawkins has been able to find his way through on Southfield here after losing that 2nd place in the early stages of the race, but it's cost him 6.4 seconds to eat well further down the road. I don't think this is the best battle is going to be ending anytime soon either, because Southfield want to try and have a go back, and of course we do still have that number 23 of Kieran Sharp to try and get themselves involved in this one. We've got a little bit of cloud cover here, which will be somewhat welcome. It will allow the track temp and therefore the tires just to cool down that little bit more. But it's going to be a marginal improvement, if anything. And Southfield still close here on the exit of Chapel. Maybe a move available in towards Stowe Corner. You can see how Hawkins is hugging that line on the on driver's right-hand side to make sure that there's no sneaky move down the inside for Stowe Corner. But here comes Southfield back on the outside. Look at the momentum he has there. What an overtake from Southfield around the outside at Stowe. It's not done as Hawkins will be able to fight back in towards Vale. but no advantage in through the first apex, and has to try and, well, has to brake basically to stop running into the back of Southfield on the exit.
Take a bow, Jack Southfield. That was a sensational move around the outside of Stowe. You've got to be brave, and you've got to have the cooperation of the other driver. And I think Hawkins is struggling a little bit, maybe struggling for grip a little bit, because now, on board with Kieran Sharp, he's putting the pressure.
Oh, no!
Oh, and around he goes. And both of them around.
Yeah, Sharp's around as well, and it's Samuel Jordan that picks up the positions to get himself up in towards third place here. That is a pivotal moment in this race. Drivers still trying to recover. Sharp rejoining the circuit, and that was a bit of a mess there in towards the first sector. It's not something that we want to see, but of course those guys were fighting so difficult. Hawkins, of course, trying to recover after losing that position to Southfield, trying to fight back, dropping back into the battle with Sharp here. We'll see it on the replay here. So Hawkins loses it. There's no contact before that car spins around. So yeah, Hawkins was in the process of losing it already, and unfortunately Sharp was collected in it.
They could just carry just that little bit too much speed, did Seb, into Village, and that just caused the car to rotate. And at that point then, with Sharp being so close up behind, nowhere to go at that moment, and just ends up with contact between the two, spins Sharp around, and yeah, Seb Hawkins then down to 6th place. Well, he'll be upset with himself about that one. It is a mistake that he's made there, and he'll sort of beat himself up about that rather than blame anybody else for that. But what that does mean is Samuel Jordan being able to move up into 3rd. Andrew Pike now up into 4th, gain of 3 places from 7th on the grid.
Yeah, been a pretty good race too for Pike in the 99. It's you can't complain about picking up positions off of drivers that have had issues. But Hawkins, he's still in this race. So is Sharp, by the way. They haven't decided to get themselves a tow back to pit lane and retire the car. So they're still out there circulating, and still potentially positions available for both of them. Hawkins has Sedgley directly ahead of him, and Sedgley has had his own fair share of issues so far this race as well. The only thing that I'd be concerned about here with Hawkins is the condition of those tyres, because having a slide like that is going to completely destroy them.
Yeah, that puts so much heat through them, and it takes lap after lap after lap to recover it, and so all he can do is just try and get the best result that he can here now from the rest of this race. But it does mean we've got that bit of separation between a few of the cars in your pro class. That race for 2nd place is still ongoing. Oliver Etheridge, we did see him make the move up into 2nd place, but Adam Holloway's not giving this one up without a fight, and Graham Brown, well, he's still there.
Yeah, I mean, at least we're talking about him now, right? That's just the situation. There's a battle further back in the YAM category here for this is Blake and Elia that are having this fantastic duel through the first sector now, as it's Blake ahead for the moment. Elia looking towards the outside for the loop, going to take that big wide arc through to try and get the speed onto the Wellington straight, and he's done a decent job of doing that so far. Coming onto the straight now, he's going to have the slipstream in towards Brooklyn. So this is looking like another neat little fight. Blake defensive to the inside already, and Elliot attempted to go the long way around. And if you can get the long way around here at Brooklands, you can find the inside for Luffield, which is the better place to be, but not successful in that instance.
Yeah, Dan Blake putting on a great display of defensive driving in this second race here. He does do a bit of real-world racing as well, does Dan, so I know he's quite the competitor. Of course, we need to get him into a podium spot at some point in the season to get him in the commentary box to have a chat with Dan. It's been a while, but yeah, certainly doing a good job of defending from Johnny Elia. But right now, Elia, he's struggled to work his way through. He's still only gained that 1 place in this race, whereas George Cullinan, has been able to pull ahead, but Cullinan's got a bit of a gap now to 4th place, which is, of course, the back of the 2nd place train.
Yeah, so I mean, 8 minutes to go. Yeah, it is a big ask from that position, isn't it? So I'm not expecting it to happen for Cullen to catch onto the back of that battle further up the fields in terms of the AM category. But never say never. I mean, Graham Brown knows all about that from Race Run, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely, and sometimes some of your best results can come from the misfortune of others. It's not how you want to get those results, but certainly you'll take them if they're offered. But still, Elia trying his best, just not able to get the move. It's all about setting people up through this section here. If you want to make the move into Village or the Loop, it's all about setting them up, getting them offline, and getting them confused or getting them defending early when you actually have no intention of making a move.
Yeah, because they take that compromise line into Village that they will then carry on through to the Loop, because the lines are so connected, I guess, in that instance, where if you mess up one corner, you're going to mess up the second corner as well. There's I guess a show of the nose there from Elliott to the inside in towards Brooklyn. There was never going to be any sting in that move there. It's just to really get himself big in the wing mirrors, which is, I guess, a little bit of a psychological game as well being played.
It's a legitimate trap tactic, that is for sure. As at Sedgley, we're seeing with Andrew Pike and Sebastian Hawkins, they're still together, these three, 4th, 5th and 6th in Pro at the top of your screen. And we've still got that race for 6th and 7th place at the bottom of your screen in AM. But certainly, yeah, it's all about trying to get into the minds of the driver that you're competing against and trying to force a mistake out of them, because sometimes you just don't have that enough of a pace gap between you and the driver that you're competing with to make that move, and so you end up having to force the mistake out of them and get the move that way.
You have to use every single little trick in the book, and Elliott getting close again in towards the braking zone. Meanwhile, you have in the pro class Sedgley having to try and defend from a recovering Hawkins. Hawkins basically pushing the rear bumper of the fellow Porsche around the circuit here at the moment, and this is going to be a potentially sketchy situation towards the inside for Copse Corner. No, just going to have to stay back in line. Meanwhile, that AM battle is also remaining as close as ever at this stage in the race. So you kind of have to be looking at two places at once here if you want to see all the action that this race has to offer in the final, coming up to the final 5 minutes of this.
It's a good job that Seb Hawkins didn't go for the move there at Copse Corner, because apparently you're not allowed to make a move at Copse Corner, according to one team manager. Johnny Ely is still putting the pressure on, by the way, on Dan Blake, and you can see him there. He takes a wide line into the loop, but got a bit of a slide on from Elia on the exit of the loop, and that just allowed Blake to pull away a little bit. So there's a little bit of a gap now between Blake and Elia in AM. Meanwhile, Sedgley's going for a move. Hawkins is trying to get that as well.
Yeah, and so, well, Sedgley was kind of congested up behind Pike here, and now Hawkins has been able to find the inside for Club Corner. There's going to be a pinch on here, but they're able to negotiate it just fine. Out onto the runoff went Sedgley, and now Hawkins maintains that overlap on the inside for Abbey here. It's always sketchy going wheel to wheel through here, but Hawkins has been able to get clear and get that move done. Might have to be positioned a little defensively here in towards the in towards Village. That was a hopeful move from Dan Martin. That didn't quite work out. Hopefully the only person he's compromised there is himself.
Yeah, Dave just got that a little bit wrong. He's rocked up to the back of these because they've been fighting over each other. He's rocked up onto the scene and gone, "Hi boys, I want to." Oh, I've gone off. But you know, it's very easy for us to sit here and say, "Oh, what a silly mistake." Sometimes you've got to take those chances. You've got to turn up and make a move straight away, or else you get stuck behind somebody, like we've seen with Dan Blake and Johnny Elia. Sometimes you've got to just turn up, right, make the move, get it done, and get away, or else you get stuck there.
Yeah, and yeah, the last thing you want to do is just to be stuck behind a bunch of potentially a little bit slower traffic, but you know, there's a little bit of nuance here with regard to that, so it's definitely worth keeping in mind though. Coming up to just a handful of minutes left to go, just a few laps to try and sort this one out. Once again, we have, well, battles at least involving Sedgley and Hawkins again, but for a slightly different position this time around here in race 2. And of course, again, we have Ettridge and Holloway, and also you can count Brown in involved in that battle for the final podium positions in the AM class as well. So still action yet to come here in the final couple of laps. There's Ettridge and Holloway at the very bottom of your screen in their little battle for P2 in the AM category.
Look who's been catching up to them as well. George Cullinan has been lapping 0.8 of a second faster than Oliver Ettridge on that last lap alone. So Cullinan, he is on a charge right now. I think he might just run out a little bit of time unless they start squabbling.
That's the important point, because that's exactly how Brown got a second place in race 1, was by the leading, or at least the P2 pack, fighting for position in the final couple of laps. So could be seeing potentially a little bit of deja vu here if it goes in that particular, down that particular timeline, I suppose. But yeah, this is great to see both the classes having their final battles here in the closing laps of this event, as the AM battle comes out on towards the hangar straight now. Holloway's going to get a whole bunch of slipstream on the way down towards Stowe Corner. Might open up an opportunity here. Gets closer, closer, closer. Not going to go for it just yet. And meanwhile, Brown is edging a little bit closer and closer as well. He's feeling like it's time to go now, because you know, you can't just sit behind forever. You have to go for those positions.
And maybe he's looked after his tyres as well by just sitting there, and now it's really coming into the fore. The battling pro class cars just making the way past, I believe that was Paul Clist in your GT3 field, GT4 field, should I say. But yeah, it's certainly now's the time to start making some moves and making them sharpish, because yeah, time is running out. The leader is just going to be starting the last lap of the race.
Yeah, just about. I'm just trying to spot exactly where Eatwell is, and so, yeah, he's just coming through the final corner now. So this is going to be the start of the final lap. Next time these guys get themselves towards the line, there is your pro class leader through turn number 1 here for the final time in this event. Just 35 seconds left on the clock. You've got the battle down at the bottom of your screen as well. That's for P2 in GT4s for the second race in a row. It's going to be a fight for the second and third steps to the podium in GT4. Of course, we do have that duel for P4 in Pro Class as well that we do have to be concerned about. But this is looking really spicy at this stage. No obvious opportunities for either battle pack just yet, but we still got some time.
Some time, but not a lot of time, because it just shows final lap now. And this is, well, these drivers are going to have an extra lap to be able to go at each other. So it's not the end of the world. But look at how close Graham Brown is now to Adam Holloway. He's putting the pressure on. Cullinan has reached the back of them as well. This is on here for that AM class as well, battling in your pros.
Yeah, absolutely battling in the pros. It's Sharp and Martin for P7 and 8 there. Is a close run thing between the two of them, having that little bit of a duel down in towards Abbey, and there's contact between the two there. Martin on the inside there drops back. Sharp had to go out very, very wide indeed. So that might be that battle drawing itself to its conclusion now. This battle for P2 and AM has started its final lap now, I believe, as they're heading their way through and getting themselves all sorted through that first sector at Abbey, the village, and the loop as well. But we do have to jump forwards, though, because for the number 54, it's been a calm affair. Not all that much pressure whatsoever, and we will eat well in the number 54. Will come across the line for a double pro race win here for the first race meeting of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge. Great Britain, a fantastic, clean performance for Will Eatwell. Then we've got the battle for P4 heading its way across the line. Pike will be able to hold on from Sedgley, from Hawkins in that situation there. Meanwhile, we reset. We have a little bit of a look down on that battle for P2 in your AM-clad category. It's currently Ettridge that still leads from in that battle from Holloway from Brown, but this could come across the line in pretty much any configuration.
Just worth pointing out, Seb Hawkins lost 5th place on the last lap, so Sedgley was able to get the move done. But this, talk about track limits and then some. Well, talk about track limits until the cows come home. But Holloway's on one here, wants to get past us, Adam. Can see an opportunity, but time and corners are running out.
Yeah, last move. Well, last opportunities now will be in towards Stowe, in towards the Vale. Those are your last opportunities to try and get through, and it wasn't a fantastic run through the through Chapel for Holloway whatsoever. So Ettridge is going to look a little bit safer here in towards Stowe than he would be otherwise if Holloway did actually get a decent run. So that might have taken the sting out of the battle. Meanwhile, Holloway still has to hold on to from Brown behind. You got Cullinan finally on the back of the train. Cullinan has launched the move in towards the Vale, but we have to look forwards at Sophia Ridpath. Double race win in the AM category for Sophia Ridpath. Fantastic performance indeed. And at the very end, it is Ettridge that comes home in P2, Holloway P3. But of course, now it's Cullinan, I believe, that was able to make that move work and get past Brown for that 4th place at the very end of the event.
Again, really good racing from all of these drivers. Absolutely sensational stuff, and boy, have we got a championship coming up for you. Well, for 2nd place maybe, because Will Eatwell and Sophia Ridpath. What performance from both of those drivers. Here's a look then to what happened. This was Cullinan on Brown on that last lap, going through the Vale into the club chicane and down the inside, late on the brakes. Great move, got the car to the apex, left space as well. That's a really good move there from Cullinan.
Yeah, that one was absolutely textbook there from Cullinan. Not just to chop the nose coming into it towards the second apex, actually left a little bit of space for the other car to exist. Basically, it doesn't necessarily matter in that instance, but it's good to see the good racecraft on display. Meanwhile, we've got ourselves our unofficial results from race 2. It's Will Eatwell for the 2nd time today, taking the race win, this time by 7.8 seconds over Jack Southfield, who had a very good evening to try and get up into that P2, especially given the situation happening all around that battle for the final 2 podium spots in Pro. Then you've got Samuel Jordan there in P3 with Andrew Pike holding on from Sedgley, and then of course we got Hawkins there, like you quite rightfully mentioned, Paul, losing a position in those final laps to Sedgley. Then you got Kieran Sharp there in 7th place with Dave Martin, who apparently has a fan club in the YouTube chat at least, in P8. Then we also got P9 for Nick Scott, and then we got Thor Tuller rounding out the top 10 in Pro. Ryan Elliott, unfortunately, having a retirement and ends up 14 laps down there in P11. Then, of course, we look at AM, and it's basically a repeat of Pro in terms of double race winners. It's Sophia Ridpath taking it once again. 7.4 seconds was her advantage back to Oliver Ettridge, as we had that big Titanic battle for AM 2nd place once again here in race 2. This time Ettridge was able to win out, but then we got Holloway in P3. Cullinan gaining a position on the final lap over Brown to finish P4. Brown, of course, in P5. Dan Blake in P6 with Adam Griffson in P7. Then, of course, Toby Andrews, Wayne Basson, and Johnny Elliott rounds out the top 10 there. Then you've got Stephen Hobbs, the last driver on the leading lap. Then you've got drivers 1 lap down or more. Adam Locke, Paul Quest, Christopher Humphreys, and David Nichols. So that's the unofficial order top to bottom when it comes to both our categories here today in this first race meeting of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain. We've had repeat winners in both classes here, Paul, but that makes it sound a little boring, doesn't it? But it was certainly not.
Yeah, it was once the leaders of each category were able to pull away in both races, they were able to gap out, but that doesn't tell the story. My goodness. Tremendous action all the way through, and all of it seemed to be around that second place for both classes. It was tremendous stuff to watch, and I wonder if Johnny Elia picked up a penalty on that last lap, because he was racing with Dan Blake, but the results have actually dropped him back a good 45 seconds, which usually means you get yourself a penalty there.
Yeah, of course, that's how it works in iRacing. It actually waits to apply, unserved black flags. It actually waits until everyone in the session has come across the line to complete their race, and then it applies the penalty afterwards as well. So therefore, it might not necessarily be represented on our graphics at the time. But we do have the first of our interviews here. Paul, take it away with Oliver Ettridge, who was able to finish P2 in the AM/GT4 class.
Well, Oliver, it didn't quite work out for you in the first race. Let's talk about that to start with. You're involved in that fight for second place all the way through, and it just didn't quite pan out how you planned, finishing fourth in the end. Just tell us about that opening race of the day.
Yeah, first of all, just want to say congratulations to Sophia. Excellent driving in both races. Couldn't get anywhere near. But yeah, the first race, I think that's probably more exciting than any of the real life stuff has been this season. That was certainly a race that I won't forget in a long time. Yeah, I think there was, with the double standing starts, Sophia had a bit of an issue with one of the cup cars on the opening lap, and I managed to sneak through. And then from there, it was just nose to tail with basically everyone else in the AMS, it felt like. Couple of unfortunate incidents, which I've not looked at the replays, so I can't comment on exactly what happened there. But yeah, very enjoyable. And then to get the second place in the second race, just not what I was expecting when I tuned into the practice at 6 o'clock.
Well, I mean, you were made to work for it in that second race. Adam Holloway was there all the way around with you, and George Brown was also lurking in the background of that one. Just how difficult is it to race, keep these cars lap after lap, keeping that pace up and not succumbing to that pressure?
Oh, it's incredibly difficult. I mean, these cars, if you push them too hard, the tyres just balloon, and you're losing half a second a lap then, and it takes a few laps to bring it back, which is sort of what happened in the first race when I was chasing Sophia. And then to have, especially when you're in the middle of a 3 or 4 train, to be constantly looking in front of you and behind you, thinking, are they going to make a move behind you? Should I go for a move now? It's incredibly taxing.
And of course, next time out, we head to Donington Park on the Grand Prix, the full Grand Prix layout. I mean, how does that feel for you to race around there? Yeah,
it's a circuit that I'm not too quick round. The chicane onto the Melbourne Loop is a real weak spot for me. So I think if the racing is anything like this again, though, it's going to be absolutely fantastic.
Well, we certainly hope it is like that again next time out. Oliver, congratulations on getting a podium there, second place in AM here in the second race of the evening.
Thank you.
There we go, Connery. That's some of the insight from Oliver Ettridge then, who finished second place, and certainly intriguing to hear his perspective of just how tricky it is to manage those fights.
Yeah, it is very difficult, and you kind of have to have eyes everywhere, eyes on the back of your head, eyes on the side of your head, to just try and keep track of everything in those situations, and it requires a very competent driver to try and maintain perspective in that sense, and hold your own despite all the potential chaos that might be happening around you. But for Oliver, it's a great P2 finish here in this race too. A very decent performance for him. But we'll have to see how the rest of the season goes, because this is just a specific look at the initial contingent of drivers. We have more drivers that are signed up that might be joining us a little bit later on in the season, so we'll have to see how that shakes things up when we head to Donington Park in the not too distant future.
Yeah, the full Grand Prix layout as well, so we've got a few more opportunities for overtakes. Again, it's a tricky track to overtake at, though, is Old Donington, but certainly it'd be great to see these cars stretching the legs around that Grand Prix layout.
Yeah, it will be absolutely fantastic. Donington Park has always played host to some great racing, and I expect no change in that respect when we head there in a couple of weeks' time. 2 weeks' time to be exact, and at the exact same time as well here in this one. But from everyone here at the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain, I've been Corey Maddock. I've been joined by Paul Smith. We've had Hugo Luis working behind the scenes, making sure everything works as it should. But we'll be back here, same time, same place, in 2 weeks' time for our second race meeting of the season at Donington Park. But for now, we will have to say goodbye and